Tonight I'm going to be talking about 10 evident signs that you know that your life is out of alignment. And if you don't know who I am, if you haven't been on one of my conference calls before, I haven't done a live in a minute, but if you haven't been on before, my name is Jessica Cooper. I'm a divine realignment strategist. I'm also a coach and a licensed therapist. But tonight I'm going to be talking from a coaching aspect, just some ways that you know your life is out of alignment. And I know that we just got started with 2018, and sometimes we have these really ambitious goals at the beginning of the year, and then life happens and we find ourselves kind of out of alignment. I don't know if anybody else has felt like that already, but I've already felt like that this year. And so I want to talk about 10 ways that you know that your life is out of alignment. I'm also going to give some tips on what you can do about that. If you're feeling like something is just off, you feel like you're not hitting on all cylinders this year, you feel like you haven't kickstarted, you haven't jump started this year. I don't know if anybody else has felt like that, but I know that I have. And so we're going to talk about how you know your life is out of divine alignment and what you can do about it. And also, I plan to repost the replay of this. And so if you want the replay, you can have that. And also, I have a free download on my website, thejessicacooper.com. You can download that. And when I get your email address, I will send you a copy of this replay. Okay? So without further ado, let's get right into it. So let me define alignment first, because I think if you search alignment online, you will find a lot of different definitions. And when I talk about alignment, I'm speaking from a Christian perspective. I'm speaking from the perspective of what alignment looks like for us as believers. And so one of the ways that we know we are in alignment is when our emotions support our goals, and our goals are in line with the will of God. Okay, so it's when our emotions are in alignment with our goals and our purpose for ourselves, and our purpose is in alignment with the will of God. Okay, and so it has to be three parts to this, because it wouldn't make sense any other way. You can have goals, you can have dreams, you can have visions, but if your emotions don't support your goals and your dreams and your visions, then you don't have the push that you need to push yourself forward, to press through and accomplish what it is you want to accomplish. So your emotions have to be in alignment. You have to have enough energy, enough vigor, enough strength to be able to move forward on what it is that you want to do. You have to have the confidence. You have to have the power. You have to have the competence. And so your emotions have to be in alignment with your goals. And then your goals have to be in alignment with the will of God for your life. Okay? And so a lot of people are doing big things. They're achieving big goals, but they're outside of the will of God. And if your goals are outside of the will of God, I call that you're outside of the blessing zone. So if your goals, your dreams, your visions that you have for yourself are outside of God's will, then you might be succeeding and being successful from a worldly standpoint, but that means that we're outside of the blessing zone. We really don't have God's blessing, okay? And so in order for alignment to occur, our emotions have to be in sync with our goals and our plans and our dreams, which have to be in line with the will of God for our life, okay? And so at the end, I'm also going to take some questions. And so wait to the end, you can ask some questions and I want to be able to answer those, okay? And so when we are in alignment, when our emotions, our goals, when it's all in alignment, we feel like we're in a flow. How many of you have felt that before, where you just felt like everything was working? Like you woke up that day, you had a good morning, you knew what you were going to do, you knew what you wanted to accomplish, like you were just moving in sync, like you were just in synergy. And then we have those days where it's like we can't get anything accomplished. We can't even get out of the bed and we can't even get up and make the bed. And so everything has to be in alignment. So when we are in alignment, we're flowing, we're in sync, we're moving, everything is flowing. This is what I call the blessing zone. We're in our creativity zone. We're doing what it is that we're called to do. This is our creativity zone. And so when we're in alignment, everything is flowing. And this doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't mean that every single day, every single moment of every day, everything is going to be flowing and everything is going to be perfect all the time. But it does mean that in the grand scheme of life, we are moving, we're flowing, we're in sync. Okay? And so this is what happens when we are in alignment with our goals and our dreams. So without further ado, we're going to get into the 10 evident signs that you know that your life is out of alignment, okay? So number 10 is this. Your routine is off, okay? When you find yourself outside of your typical routine, you know that you are out of alignment. Okay. Now, there are some obvious times in our life where we're going to be out of routine. If you just have a baby, if you just start a new job, if you move, if you just get married, obviously your routine is going to be off. But there are other times when our routine is off because we are in a slump. Our routine is off. We're skipping work. You might be skipping class. You're not eating right. You're not sleeping well. Right? So there are other times when things are out of sync because we're out of routine, because we're out of alignment. Okay? And so you have to be able to distinguish between the two. But also, you can have a life crisis happen or something good like having a baby, and you can be out of your routine, but you can get stuck there. Like sometimes we can get stuck out of our routine. We can get stuck being out of alignment, even if we had a good change. And so you have to be able to know the difference between, am I in alignment or am I just going through something right now? So one of the ways you know is that you are out of routine. Maybe you stop associating with your friends. You stop reading. You stop growing. You stop learning. You stop pursuing your goal. You stop bathing, brushing your teeth. It could be things like that. So you know, one of the ways that you know that you're out of alignment is when you are outside of your routine, when your routine is off, okay? And a lot of times this not only affects one part of life, but affects all of life. Let's say you start missing work. You also stop cooking. You also stop pursuing your goals. And so if your routine is off and your routine continues to be off, you're out of alignment. And a lot of times too, I don't know if you guys remember when the miners got stuck in the cave. I think this was a few years ago. And then recently, these kids got stuck in a cave. This soccer team got stuck in a cave. When I was reading one of the articles, it said that one of the suggestions that the old miners had for these kids is that they make sure they get back to their routine as soon as possible. When they got out of the cave, they wanted them to get back to their life routine as soon as possible. That's because our routine gives us our rhythm in life. That's why it's good for us to have a routine. It's good for us to do the same things at the same time every day. You don't want to, today you're going here, tomorrow you're starting school, the next day you're at the hospital. Like, we all need a routine in our life. Babies need a routine. Everybody needs a routine. And so when our routine is off, we know that we are out of alignment. Okay. So number 9 is this, and I know a lot of you will be able to relate. Number 9 is that you are feeling uninspired. Now, this is a big one because as believers, for those of us who are believers, we know that we have the light of God inside of us. There's this inspiration that God gives us to move us towards our passion, that moves us towards what it is that we're called to do. That's why some people are into health and some people are into medicine and somebody's into oil and gas and somebody's into math and somebody else is into being a homemaker, because God has given us this compass on the inside of us that's driving each of us towards our purpose. And so when something starts to dim that light, we begin to feel uninspired. We don't want to do the things that we're called to do. We don't want to do what it is that God put us here in the earth to do. And so when you begin to feel uninspired, like you don't want to pursue your purpose, you don't want to fulfill your goals, that's one of the evident signs that you know that you are out of alignment. God gives us a certain amount of grace and energy to be able to do what it is that He's called us to do. And so you know that if you are not feeling that, you know that something's wrong. You know that you are getting out of alignment. Let me turn this phone off. Okay. So again, you're feeling uninspired. Okay. Now there are some days or some seasons, maybe you want to write a book and you're sitting down to write and nothing's coming, or you're just not feeling it today. So that's normal. But when it gets to be prolonged, like every single day you're uninspired, the light bulb is off, you don't know what you're called to do, you don't know where you're going, you don't know what you want to accomplish, that's how you know that something inside is off and you're no longer in alignment. We should be inspired every single day, overcoming obstacles every single day because we're trying to get to that goal. Paul said that I press toward the mark of the high call. And so every day we should be pressing toward the mark. Even if we don't see the progress like we want to see it, every single day we should be pressing toward the mark of the high call. We all have a high call. It looks different for everybody, but we should all be pressing towards something every single day. Personal growth, bettering our health, bettering our bodies, bettering our mind, bettering the people around us, inspiring the people around us. This is how we know we're in alignment, because no matter what happens, we're still seeking to progress. We're still seeking to move forward. And so when you're uninspired, you're in the slumps, that's one of the ways you know that you are out of alignment, okay? Another thing is this, number 8, your thought life is off. Your thought life is off. Now, this is another really big one, because this is where most of us get stopped because of our thought life, because our thoughts aren't in line with our purpose. Our thoughts aren't in line with our emotions. Our thoughts are not aligned. Then we're not making the progress that we should. We're out of alignment. And so when your thought life is off, you might be focusing too much on the negative, right? This was one of my struggles for a long time. I was just focused on what wasn't happening, focused on what wasn't right. But when you're focused on the negative, or you're constantly mentally frustrated, you're mentally drained, you're mentally, just no clarity. When our thought life is off, it affects every area of our life. The Bible says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So it's really important for us to have divine alignment by making sure that our thought life is where it needs to be. And I often post about this or talk about this because there's only really one cure for having wrong thoughts. A lot of times we're going through something, we're facing something, and all we want to do is focus on what we're going through. You're having marriage problems. We just want to focus on our marriage problems. We're having problems with our friends, financial problems, problems on the job. And all we want to do is focus on the problems that we are facing. But the only true antidote for dealing with a thought life being off is found in Philippians 4:8. It says, whatever is true, honest, just, pure, lovely, virtuous, of good report, these are the things that we have to think on, okay? And so that's just an extra tidbit. If you are struggling if your thought life is off, that means that God is trying to redirect you to focus on the good, the lovely, the pure, the honest, right? The problems are still going to be there, but we can have peace in our life because we choose what we want to focus on. We have the power to control our thoughts. We have the power to control our emotions by choosing what we focus on. Okay? And so one of the ways you know you are out of alignment is that your thought life is all over the place. Okay? So number seven, the way that you know that you are out of alignment is that you feel like you're going in circles. You're going around in circles. You're going around the same mountain. You find yourself month after month, year after year, you are going around the same circle. So life is meant to progress. We're all meant to be moving forward. But you know that if you're going around in circles, it's because there's something there that you haven't fully dealt with yet. Okay? There's something there that hasn't yet been figured out. And so there's a sense of restlessness that happens. When we're going around in circles, we feel restless. It's almost like, it's like going around on a hamster's wheel. It's like doing things that you might be doing something that's insignificant. You might be doing a minimum wage activity, a MWA, something that's insignificant, and like cleaning, right? You might be cleaning every single day, all day long. And it seems like it's a good thing to do. But really, it's causing you to just move around in circles. It's causing you to not progress in the areas that you need progress in. Stephen Covey calls this doing the urgent thing versus the important things. So each of us, we can get caught in every single day doing the urgent things, like putting out fires. We're checking text messages. We're returning phone calls. We are returning voicemails, things like that. We're taking care of the kids, we're cleaning the house, we're doing these things that are urgent, but they're not necessarily the important things. Important things such as reading, important things such as spending time in prayer, important things like spending time with our loved ones, with our parents, with our siblings. And so one of the ways that you know that you are out of alignment is that you're going around in circles in life. You're doing things that are urgent, but they're not necessarily important. Okay. There's a sense of restlessness, and God calls us to rest in Him. So if you're feeling restless, you're feeling like you're going around in circles, you're out of alignment. Okay. Number 6 is this: you cannot sense God. You cannot sense His presence. Okay. And this is so important because the worst thing in the world is to not be able to sense the presence of God. You know, a lot of times we say we feel God's presence, but we don't necessarily feel God's presence. God can manifest Himself in a physical way, but most of the time we sense His presence. And so we know we're out of alignment when we're like, I don't feel God. I can't see God. I don't hear God. I'm not experiencing God like I used to. When I go to church, I don't feel anything. When I read my Bible, I'm not getting anything. I'm not understanding anything. And this is one of the ways that we know that we're out of alignment, because the Bible says that the kingdom of heaven is within. The kingdom of God is within. And so the enemy tries to keep us from resting long enough for us to be able to get in the presence of God and begin to sense Him. Okay. And so if you don't sense God's presence, you know that you are out of alignment and that you need to do something to shift that. Okay. So one of the ways that we know that we are out of alignment is if we cannot sense God. This also happens. We can become numb to God. You know, we can be in sin. We can be outside of the will of God. A lot of times when we're outside of the will of God, we don't sense God. We don't sense His presence when we're doing things that we know that God has not called us to. And so this is the way we know that we're out of alignment. We can't feel God. We can't sense God. We can't hear God. You know, the way that we used to interact with God, we feel distance from Him. We feel like there's a wall up, there's a block there that's keeping us out of God's presence. And that's never God. That's never His intention. The Bible says that He stands at the door and He knocks. He's waiting for us. It's not the other way around. God is always waiting for us to come back to Him. And so we know that we're out of alignment when we cannot sense God's presence. That's number 6. Okay. Number 5 is this: the 5th way that we know that we are out of alignment is when we start having all of these physical manifestations in our body. Now, this tends to be the most obvious one. Obviously, if you have a heart attack, a lot of doctors call it the silent killer, because it seems like nothing was happening all this time and then boom, you have a heart attack, you know. But something was happening the whole time. Something was going on behind the scenes the whole time. And so one of the ways we know is that we start having these physical manifestations in our body. Have you ever woke up and like you had this tension in your neck or this pain in your back? When we start having all of these physical manifestations, it's our body trying to tell us something. One of the ways we might have we might have headaches. We might have breathing, like your breathing can be off. You can sense like when you're breathing really heavy or you're breathing very shallow. When you're breathing really shallow, it could be nervousness, it could be a tension, it could be an uneasiness. And so when things start manifesting in our body, getting headaches all the time, feeling just a lot of tension inside of us, that's one of the ways that our body is trying to tell us we are out of alignment and we need to recenter ourselves so that we can get back into alignment. Okay. Number 4, the 4th way that you know that you are out of alignment is when there's something wrong with your expression, when you feel an inability to be able to express yourself, when you feel like you cannot freely be who you are. You might feel like you're being inauthentic. You might feel like you're wearing a mask in front of other people. You feel like you can't really be who you are or people won't accept you. Or you can't really be who you are or people are going to be upset with you. They're not going to like you. They're not going to allow it. One of the ways that you know you're out of alignment is if there's something that is blocking your self-expression, okay? Something that makes you feel like your power is being hindered, like you've given your personal power away to somebody else and you're unable to truly be yourself. One of the things is that when depression comes, they say it's like our emotions turn inward. So instead of expressing our emotions, we have all our emotions bottled up inside. It's just festering inside of us, and we don't know what to do with all of that energy and all of those emotions. And so when there's a lack of self-expression, when you feel repressed, like you're repressing your emotions, you don't want to cry, you don't want to mourn, you don't want to grieve, you don't want to you don't want to express anger or sadness or pain. That's repression. That's like pressing something down inside of you or suppressing these emotions. So whether it's suppression, repression, there's always depression, okay? And so you're out of alignment when you do not feel the freedom or the ability to be able to freely express your emotions and be who you really are, and trust that the people who need to accept you are going to accept you, and there are some people who are not going to accept you, but you still have the freedom to be who you are. The third way that you know you are out of alignment, it kind of goes along with that, is that your emotions are out of whack. And this is not just for women, because men love to say that women are emotional. Everybody's emotional. But one of the ways that you know that you're out of alignment is that your emotions are all over the place. Your emotions are out of whack. Your emotions are not in alignment with who you want to be and how you want to show up. Okay, so you might be expressing a lot of the lower energy emotions like anger, bitterness, jealousy, envy, frustration. Whenever we're expressing a lot of those, lower energy emotions, we're out of alignment because we're not made to live in that place. That drains us. It drags us down to be constantly living in a place of bitterness, low-key jealousy. A lot of times we're really just resentful and jealous. Everybody want to talk about haters, but a lot of times it's us that's hating on somebody else. But these types of emotions, they really weigh us down. They drag us down. And what we tend to do is harbor emotions inside of us. That's why they say, like, don't harbor hate, don't harbor envy, don't harbor anger. We harbor these emotions inside of us. And a lot of times they can come out as physical manifestations. Next thing we know, we have a lump somewhere, or we have this neck pain, this back pain, because we are harboring all of these emotions on the inside of us. And emotions are basically energy. And when we harbor this energy and all these emotions inside of us, it affects us. It throws us off balance because we're not made to be able to do that. If you find yourself easily triggered, you easily frustrated, easily angered, easily bitter about something, that is an evident sign that that you're out of alignment. Okay. So number two, the second way that you know that you are out of alignment is if you are still bothered by yesterday. If you're still bothered by something that happened yesterday, yesterweek, yesteryear, yesterdecade, a decade ago, if you're still bothered by things from your past, that's an evident sign that you cannot fully be in alignment. We cannot be in alignment if we have things that we have not dealt with, that we have not fully processed. One of my mentors said that the millennials are the least processed generation. We don't like to deal with things all the way through. We don't like to fully deal with our emotions. We don't like to fully deal with our past. We don't like to fully deal with our pain. And so we're just unprocessed. We're not fully processed. And so if you attempt to live this way, I promise you, no matter how far you've gotten in life, that thing is still going to come back and you're going to have to deal with it at some point. I call it burying things alive. A lot of us have buried something and it was alive when we buried it, and it's still alive down there somewhere, and it's going to come back up at some point. And so if you attempt to live with these things that you have not yet dealt with, it's going to affect your life, and it is affecting your life. And sometimes when something triggers it, it's going to affect it more so than normal, and it's going to totally take you out of whack. It's going to totally take you out of alignment when that wound, so to speak, is irritated. Something happens that irritates that wound, or that thing that was never healed or dealt with. So one of the ways you know you're out of alignment is that you are still dealing with something that happened yesterday, something that happened last year, something that happened last week, something that happened last month. It is going to cause you sooner or later, if it's not already, it's causing you to be out of alignment. And the last and final thing, reason number one, or way number one that you know that you are out of alignment, is that there is little to no manifestation in your life. You're not manifesting your goals. If you are not seeing manifestation happen in your life at a sufficient level, then that's a telltale sign that you're out of alignment. We are made to constantly be producing, constantly be moving forward, constantly be progressing. And if we're not progressing, if we're not moving forward, then there's something in us that's out of alignment. One of my favorite people to watch is Tony Robbins. He's somebody that is operating at such a high level of performance. It's a lot of self-help people that have done the inner work, and they're operating at such a high level of performance. But especially for those of us who are believers, we should be operating at the maximum level because of what's inside of us, and because of who's inside of us and what he's gifted us to do. But a lot of times we're not operating at that level. We're not manifesting. We're not producing. We're not getting results at that level because it's all these things that are on the inside of us that are holding us back, that are stopping us from producing. And so when you don't see yourself achieving goals, if you're not a goal getter, if you're not manifesting at the levels, you're not manifesting the things that you desire to see happen in your life, it's because something is out of alignment. The Bible says that Jesus cursed the fig tree because it didn't produce. So really, any area of our life that's not producing, it's, in a sense, it's cursed. Any area in our life where we're not seeing results, that area in a sense is cursed, meaning that there's a pattern, there's something that's being blocked, there's a pattern or something that is inhibiting growth in that area. So we should be producing, we should be reaching our goals, we should be growing in every single area. If we see a toddler walking around and in 10 years he was still a toddler, we would all know that there was something wrong. There's a gene or something that's defect. We would all say that there's something wrong that's causing that child to not produce and grow at the level that it should. And it's the same thing with us. We should all be growing in our emotions, growing in our spiritual life. We should be growing physically. We should be growing in every single area of our life. And if we're not, it's an evident sign that there's something inside of us that is out of alignment. Okay, so the question is now, what do we do about it? What do we do about this? If you feel like some of this hit home for you, you feel like there's something that's out of alignment, you haven't been achieving your goals or achieving things the way that you expected yourself to in 2019, what can you do about it? So in my next live or conference call, I'm going to be giving 10 ways to get yourself back into alignment. But tonight I want to share one. And even being able to fulfill this one, being able to look into this one, it's going to help you progress if you feel like this is you or somebody in your life who is not in alignment, okay? And that is this. If you feel like you are out of alignment, here's one thing that you can do about it. Discover the need of the moment. Discover the need of the moment. There's always something, when there's something that is being blocked, out of alignment, held up, there is a need of the moment. There's something that you specifically need in this moment that's going to help you progress forward. And a lot of times, because we're so busy, we're so, just kind of always going, we don't take the time to really reflect. We don't take the time to just be present with ourselves. We don't take the time to sense what it is that's going on the inside of us. And so when you find the time or rather you make the time. I think it was Tony Robbins that said, if you don't have time for yourself, if you don't have time for yourself, you really don't have a life. And so everybody should have time for themselves, make time for themselves, okay? So when you make the time to spend time with yourself, just get quiet and find out, what is it that I need? What is it that I need right now? What is it that I'm missing? A lot of times for those of us who are Christians or believers or really spiritual, we might say, I need something from God. But the Bible says that God has given us everything pertaining to life and godliness. So whatever you need, it's not from God, because God has already given us everything we need, whether it's peace or joy or contentment or the ability to get wealth. He's already given it to us. But it's us who has to become aware of what we need, and we have to receive what it is that he's given us. And so you want to sit down, reflect, take the time to reflect, go inside and ask yourself, what is it that I need? What am I missing? What if I were to add this to the ingredient of my life right now would help me to be able to achieve alignment, get back in alignment, get back on track, get back to being me, get to being who I really am. Okay? And so the one thing that you want to do is ask yourself, what is my need of the moment? What do I need from me? What is it that I need from me to be able to get back into alignment? And you want to give that to yourself and begin to live that out, begin to walk that out. And as you do that, you're going to find yourself almost instantly coming back to yourself, getting back into alignment. And you can start focusing on yourself again, focusing on what it is that you need and what it is that you desire. Okay? So again, that one thing that you need to do is discover the need of the moment. What do I need? Do I need to forgive myself? Do I need to love myself more? Do I need to accept myself? Do I need to forgive my past? Do I need to forgive my mom? Do I need to forgive my cousin? Do I need to forgive my uncle? Do I need to give myself permission to be who I am? What is it that you need to give yourself so that you can get back into alignment? Okay? So those are the 10 ways that you know you're out of alignment. I'm just going to run through them again. Number 1, your routine is off. You know you're out of alignment if your routine is off, if you're feeling uninspired, if your thought life is off, you're meditating on the wrong things, if you're going in circles in your life, you're not making progress, you're just going around in circles year after year, month after month. You cannot sense God. You cannot sense the presence of God. You can't sense him leading you, guiding you, being with you. Number 5, you having all of these physical manifestations in your body. Things are happening, headaches, pains, things that are unexplained, constantly getting sick, constantly feeling down, feeling off. Number 4, there's a lack of expression. You don't feel the freedom, the ability to be who you are, to be yourself, to be authentic, to be genuine, to take off the mask. Number 3, your emotions are out of whack. You're angry, bitter, frustrated, crying, jealous. Okay, emotions are out of whack. You're still holding on to things that happened yesterday, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And the number 1 way that you know is that there is little or no manifestation in your life. You're not manifesting your goals, your dreams. You're not moving forward on the things that you said that you were going to move forward on this year, last year, 2 years ago, 10 years ago. You're not making that progress, okay? And the thing that you need to do is discover what you need and give that to yourself, okay? So I want to say this too. Sometimes what we're going through requires therapy. Okay, there's a difference between therapy and coaching. If you need therapy if you're still bleeding. If you are just bleeding, you are just really not yourself, and you've been this way for some time, you need counseling, you need therapists, you need to find a therapist. Okay, coaching is if you feel stuck and you just need a push. Okay, and so I want to encourage you, if you looking into coaching, you want to be able to move forward, or somebody to help hold you accountable, go to my website, thejessicacooper.com, and we can talk about coaching for you. Okay, also I'm going to put the replay up, and I'm going to put a link to this worksheet. So if you want this worksheet, you want this information, just put your put your email address at the bottom of the post with the flyer, and I will email this to you. Okay? So I want to take some questions. I'm going to unmute the people on conference call. If you have any questions, I want to take questions.
All participants are unmuted.
I want to take questions. Okay, I'm gonna have to turn this to the side so I can see. That's good. Therapy if you're still bleeding. Okay, yes. So right. So like I said, therapy and coaching are different, okay? Coaching is to push you forward, to help you get unstuck, to help you work through certain things that are hindering you from fulfilling your goals. You feel like there's some things that you just need some help working through. But therapy is if you are really still dealing with something. It's like you need somebody to get down in the trenches with you and work with you and help pull you up. Whereas coaching is, I can throw you a rope and say, hey, come on, let me help pull you out of this. And so a lot of times we don't want to get counseling. We don't want to get therapy. We don't want to get help. And it's really impossible to move forward in life at the level that God has called us to if we are unwilling to get the help that we need. Okay, so get counseling if you're still bleeding. If you get counseling if you are just stuck in the pit and you can't move. But get coaching if you want to 10x the results in your life and you want to see yourself go to the next level. Great question, Miss Passion. Okay, so if you have any questions, I want to take some questions. Let's see. Okay, and again, put your email address at the bottom if you want to receive a copy of the list, and I will email it to you. Okay, are there any questions on the conference call? Anybody have a question? I think I unmuted everybody. Okay, and while you guys are thinking, I want to say this too. A lot of times it's us who has clogged up our own pipeline. It's us who is causing ourselves not to receive, because like I said before, God has already given us everything we need. He's freely given us everything we need. But a lot of times it's us who has clogged up the pipeline so that we can't receive. Let's see. How would a person deal with past hurt that they keep thinking about? That is a good question. If you're still thinking about it, it means that it needs to be completed. It's something that you need to find out. Number one, why is it that you keep thinking about it? Why am I still thinking about this? Why am I still going on and on about this? Like, we're not thinking about what we ate yesterday. We don't think about that every day, but we're still thinking about this other thing. So it's a sign that it's something that you need to get complete with. It might be something that you need to talk through with someone. It might be that you need to go to this person and say, hey, this hurt me, but I'm ready to let this go now. But first you have to work through it. You have to ask yourself, why am I still thinking about this? What about this is still bothering me? And what do I need to be able to complete this so I can forgive this person and move forward? Because anything that we're still thinking about constantly is affecting our life and it's holding us back in that particular area. And so you want to ask yourself, why am I still thinking about this? And what do I need to do? So hopefully that answered your question, China Doll. Why do we tend to brush things under the rug instead of dealing with it? That's a good question. I really believe that one of the reasons we do that is because we're not trained, because we come from a culture that doesn't know how to handle things well. We don't know how to process things well. We don't know how to close things that we've opened. Like if you were in a family where nobody ever said, I'm sorry, nobody ever really dealt with things, maybe somebody made a mistake and your parent did something wrong and they didn't apologize. A lot of times we're trained to just sweep things under the rug and not deal with them. And we have to untrain ourselves. We have to learn how to complete things every day. Something else that I'll talk about on another call is at the end of every single day, you want to have complete closure with everything that's happened. If somebody cuts you off on the road, if your boss says something that upsets you, your spouse, your kids, you want to relive all of those things and process through them and deal with them and complete them every single day. So that way you create a new habit for yourself where you learn how to finish things emotionally instead of leaving them open and not dealing with them. But it's usually a learned habit, and we have to unlearn it and train ourselves something new. If I forgive everyone, I'm free. This message for somebody else. Thanks, though. Oh, okay. If I forgive everyone, I'm free. Okay. Okay, good. What if I have to leave everyone to discover myself? Then leave everyone. I believe that there's a season where God calls, most of us to leave what we know and what we're comfortable with. Everybody in the Bible had to leave at some point. Abraham had to leave his home. Most people, when God is trying to do something in your life, he separates you from the people that you might depend on, you might lean back on instead of him. So I am a believer that there's a season where we have to get away so that we can become something, so that we can come back to that environment and help transform it. So I definitely believe that if you need to get away, then get away so that you can become who it is that you need to become. Right. You feel like Abraham. Right. So go with it. If that's what God is taking you, he's saying, leave these people behind in this season. Now, it might not be like a spouse, like you can't just up and leave your spouse unless there's some other circumstances. But, if it's like family or friends and God is telling you to cut yourself off, it's because he is trying to put you in the processor and help you to become something new so that you can, be what you need to be to these people. So I say, go for it. If that's what God is calling you to do, follow it. I should love people so much, and I never feel the same love back. Why do people tend to rip out my heart, the heart of people that really love them? China, in that situation, if I were to talk to you, I would probably find out that there's something that happened at some point in your life that made you feel like people don't love or accept you, in some capacity. And so it's something that happened a long time ago that gave you that thought process. And you want to figure out what that is and what happened, and you want to deal with it and you want to complete it. Because, the root of that is really, spiritually speaking, we call it a stronghold. It's a mental pattern that the enemy puts in your mind to make you believe something that's not true. Because we could probably find tons of people in your life that love you and receive love, and so you want to find out what happened, at that point in your life that made you feel that way. And then we want to deal with that and then retrain your mind to see it differently, because when you see it differently, it becomes different. So, there are some people that are not going to receive love. And sometimes we attract those people to us, based on how we're feeling or where we are emotionally. But a lot of times it's something in us that we have to shift the way that we're thinking so that we can begin to manifest something different. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So if you have any questions about that, China Doll, then message me and we can chat about it. You're welcome, Princess. Okay. Are there any questions on the conference call? Let me make sure I unmuted you all. Mute is off. Okay. You're welcome. Hopefully that helps. Okay, any questions on the conference call? Any questions? Awesome. Okay. Well, I appreciate you all for joining in. Like I said, you can put your email address at the bottom of the post, at the bottom of the flyer, and I will email you a copy of the notes, okay? So if there are no more questions, I will see you all next Monday. And also, last thing is this. If there's something specific that you want to know about alignment, how to get alignment in your life, write that at the bottom of the post, and I will integrate that into what I talk about. Okay? So I hope you all have a blessed night. If you want coaching, check out my website, and I would love to work with you. I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.